I just wish people would understand that it was never about Donald Trump. You think 75 million people voted for Donald Trump? No. But okay, to be fair, was there a percentage of those 75 million people who were just straight up weirdos who act like the guy is Elvis Presley and are just obsessed about him? Sure, of course there are. But I'm not talking about those weirdos. I'm talking about an overwhelming majority of the 75 million people who casted their vote for him. They weren't voting for him. To be honest, it could have been anyone running. You see, what these 75 million people were voting for was just some type of return to normalcy. Look, we all want to be more progressive. We want to be able to grow and learn from the mistakes of our country's past. Sure, but this very radically left direction we were heading in, and at the speed in which we were heading there, 75 million people just couldn't do it anymore. If you meet any normal, logical, and rational thinking person, even conservative Republicans, they would tell you, of course we believe in LGBTQ rights. Why not? Love who you want. Be with who you want. You do you. But it was well, hey, let's start giving hormone blockers to children, or allowing biological boys to compete in women's spaces, or making it so that all a man has to do is wear a dress and he would be allowed to walk into a women's restroom where young girls might be in. It was the forced usage of pronouns, or you'd be branded a pariah, or drag shows where you're allowing children to give cash tips to a sexually explicit looking adult as they dance underneath the sign that reads, "It's not gonna lick itself." That's where people started having the issue. It was never a complaint about legal immigration, people coming into this country the right way, the legal way. It was never hatred towards those legal immigrants who come here and work hard, most of the time working jobs that others wouldn't want to do, that we have the issue with. But it was the tens of millions of people who came here not the legal way, and then the government saying, hey, let's use the American citizens' tax money to help those who committed a crime and how they got here by providing them with free housing and health care. Meanwhile, American citizens are suffering. It was never about women not being able to have the choice to do what they need to do with regard to their health care, or their ability to have an abortion should they choose to do so. But it was about the federal government having way too much power over the matter and allowing the people to decide through their states in which they live in how to navigate it moving forward. The fact of the matter is, it is far too easy to believe, because the media made it that way, that if you voted for Donald Trump, you were a horrible person who wants to elect a fascist, racist, misogynistic dictator to be president, when that couldn't be further from the truth. For one, because it's simply not true. The man was president for 4 years once before, and at no point did he become a dictator. And two, voting for Donald Trump was, again, less of a vote for the man and more of a vote to the end of this radically left identity politics that has become so suffocating over the last 4 years. There is nothing wrong with being more progressive. There is nothing wrong with attempting to move forward in a more positive, progressive direction, learning from the mistakes of our past. But when a political party starts making it overwhelmingly about race or gender or sexual identity, instead of talking about policies which will help the regular, hardworking Americans who just want to be able to have their slice of the American dream and live a safe and comfortable life, then this is the result that you're going to get. Donald Trump's victory in this election was not about re-electing some God-sent messiah who can do no wrong. It was instead a repudiation of these overwhelmingly radical ideologies that were taking us in a direction that a majority of Americans simply just didn't want to put up with anymore. It was the voice of many Americans who were saying, look, enough is enough. We have very real, significant issues in our country that need to be resolved, and putting such a focus on such radically left identity politics will do nothing to help those issues. I think it's fair to say that the people of this country have made it clear that it's time for people, especially those who are in our government, to start focusing on real issues and acting like adults again.